Yesterday, Nyoro and Babu Owino were... Did you spend it? Yes. The first servant said, you gave me 5. I doubled it, invested it, and here are the 10. To be crowned as a king at a nearby place. Then he called his 3 servants. To the first servant, he gave 5 minas. To the second servant, he crowned as a king at a nearby. Jeff, a story is told in the book of Matthew 24. If you go to Garissa, they know Babu Owino. What party? Jeff, let me come and then I explain. The rounds at the enemy. Babu, what party? Jeff, let me come and then I explain this because Babu's name is bigger than any political party in this country. If you go to Garissa, they know Babu Owino. Yeah. So I'm saying with a lot of humility and allow me to be humble. Yes. Jeff, a story is told in the book of Matthew 25:14 to 30 that a master had his 3 servants. He wanted to be crowned as a king at a nearby place. Then he called his 3 servants. To the first servant, he gave 5 minas. To the second servant, he gave 2 minas. And to the last servant, he gave 1 mina. Then he went, he was crowned a king, came back. Then he called the 3 servants and asked them, whatever I gave you, the little that I gave you, how did you spend it? Yes. The first servant invested it, and here are the 10 cities to take care of. The second servant said, you gave me 2. Here are 4. He was given 4 cities to take care of. The last servant, that master, I knew you. I knew that you're a very bad person. And I knew that if you come back, you would ask for your money. Therefore, I dug a hole and hid it. Here it is. Then the master said, did what? Sent away that servant because that servant was an irresponsible servant. Like Wamadimples. Like Wamadimples.
Alright guys, so Madimbos, of course you must be aware who Madimbos is here. So the political game is cooking and the pot is almost ready to be served to the table. And this is a different heating for political stuff, and how I wish that the voters would actually make sense out of the vote. You know, all the time we cast our vote, but we just throw it in a very deep hole that we cannot retrace our votes again. So guys, it has been a while. Ndindi Nyoro has been on the limelight. I remember the time he addressed the young people, the economic students in Nairobi, and you remember he gave mathematics about entrepreneurship. There is a time again he addressed other students, must be thicker, and he talked about the realities of how you can calculate the output over investments. And of course he was talking about the selling of some enterprises in Kenya and acquisition of others. And when the president actually decided to sell part of Safaricom, he addressed something over it. Now, Ndindi Nyoro has consistently been talking economics, and of course, of late, people are coming up to contravene his intentions and indicated that he must have had a folly game over the budgetary rank that he had. Now, of course, you can tell me that you're not aware most of the politicians in Kenya loot. And most time after they loot, what they do is to hoot and shoot. Because how do they hoot? Of course, they hoot by making noise and trying to say that everybody is stealing, that they're just being framed, that people are saying they don't have evidence. And how do they shoot later? Of course, they begin to hand those people who are trying to whistleblow about this information. Now, of course, most times in Kenya, when you get people being trapped, remember recently we had one of such cases, you must know that they have a lot of sensitive information. No wonder they are being hunted down. Now, recently we had an interview involving Babu Owino and NDINDI NYORO. And of course, a lot of people are coming up to say that the two should unite to build a task force that is suitable for the political, positions. I hope the Kenyans are actually seeing the same, because unfortunately, most Kenyans are blind. We have the eyes, but something is wrong with our eyes, or maybe the brain, something of that sort. Now, I don't know whether Kenya, we are actually almost like Uganda in one way or the other. Possibly because we are supported to think that maybe those people who speak a lot about each other, maybe they are possibly doing the best. Because again, you kind of see people talking, discussing others instead of discussing matters. And why am I saying this? Of course, people will be talking about which party. What does it matter about the party? Does it matter the party or the person? Leia, what are you saying? You said Nino Esperon? All right, so I just wish, because we have been discussing political matters a lot, and you look at some politicians, they're just changing the forest, but they are still the same monkeys we saw in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 2000s, and now it is almost 2030, right? So welcome, welcome, and I feel so grateful that most of you actually follow Live Saga TV to watch what we discuss, and very critical matters. Of course, some of us are trying to sit aside and say politics is not our thing, but remember all the time, whether you talk politics or not, it's going to affect you in one way or the other. So it's just better if you are a professional, of course. As far as the rule talks about avoiding politics, it's just a way of actually making us blind to the aspect that are actually controlling everything, including our life, social life, economic life. Reality is, if you understand politics deeply, and maybe even you get to a group kind of let me talk about a certain group that is holding politicians accountable. You stand a chance to save yourself in so many things, and also network becomes a broader thing. And therefore, I would actually urge people that as far as you have a job to maintain, it's also good that you are informed about the politics of the day, what's happening in the country and any other neighboring nation, internationally, and across the globe, because really it matters a lot. So when that interview was conducted, I had to create time to just listen to what Babu Owino and NDINDI NYORO were saying. And of course, knowing the two of them, we know very well that they are performers. They are performers. And that makes sense to listen to them and maybe try to demand that the rest of the leaders actually act based on the two. And how I wish that NDINDI NYORO would not attach himself just to the united opposition, but form a task force with Babu Owino among many others, maybe as we go and scrutinize them so that they stand out in matters politics, because these are the people who don't just hold a Luo nation or Kikuyu nation accountable. They hold the entire nation. And of course, the other day I was talking to somebody and they were saying that NDINDI NYORO is just being strategic as Ruto. What he's doing is actually using his funds to buy an opportunity, and once he gets it, he forgets. And I was not buying that discussion, because I didn't see Ruto doing what NDINDI NYORO is doing. You look at what Babu has done in Embakasi since he came in. I don't think you can compare that to some of the leaders we've seen, like the Kericho governor, Busia governor, Isiolo governor. And recently, of course, we've been shown a lot of governors from the northeastern front. All they have to do is to argue against what other people have said, but they cannot account for what they have done. Because I wouldn't think as a leader, if you are told you've not done development in your area, you shouldn't come out to argue that whoever is claiming so, whatever they have in their area was done by the colonialists. That is not a proper argument. It's not actually logical when you look at philosophy and all that. You would come out and oppose that by proving you've done something. And I hope that the people of Northeastern are not going to be pulled around. Of course, I saw some young people who are trying to argue out and say that the problem is not Gachagua, but their leaders. Because a leader who argues against what has been claimed of them by pointing out in the past and proving that what was done there was done by somebody else. I looked at that argument and I laughed, because of course we look at these schools, Alliance Girls, you look at Staré and all those schools. The buildings that are currently there and infrastructure is not just what the colonialists did. You look at Alliance Girls possibly and boys, there are constructions from the past and there are now new ones, of course the story building coming up and new other resources. So you can't argue by telling somebody that Gachagua is saying this, yet the constructions within his area were done by colonialists. That's not logic. It doesn't add up, right? You would rather say, even though they are saying we have not done, look at Garissa High School, for example, how it is. Then I would buy into your idea and tell us Garissa was built this year and this is what we did. So, of course, when Gachagua spoke about this, he did not say that now he's disapproving totally tribes from going to those schools. And the challenge that came up just some days later is when Ndindi Nyoro said that day schools in Kihara will actually have students paying only 500 shillings. And now people came out to question, where does he get money? Does it matter where he gets the money? If you people, you said that the money that is constructing the, the tall buildings in Garissa Lodge is not CDF money, then why would you ask where Ndindi Nyoro has gotten the money to do what he's doing in his area? I remember the other time Selassie, used to do a lot of things. And so many people began to ask, where does he get the money? Where does it get the money? I think citizens don't care where you get the money. What they care about is, are you enhancing their progress? And of course, Casio says all Brazil, hola. Okay, so let's check on the discussion. And of course, you've already heard what Babu Owino said, that what matters is how you use the resources you've had. It's not about how much you're given. What matters is how you use the resources. So I want us to get to that discussion just shortly, and maybe we'll spend like 20 minutes, and later on we might allocate 1 hour to this discussion, which is very fundamental. The reason why I picked this is that such a discussion is critical to open our eyes, an eye-opener to us as voters, as professionals who can advise our families and even individuals around us. Because the blind voting that happens in Kenya all the time, and we keep blaming the politicians at the end of it, we are the problem. We don't vote with our heads. Most times we vote with our hearts, or we vote with the parties. What matters is not the party, it's the individual, the specific individual who is vying for a certain post. If they are progressive, that would be important that we consider them. However, because now Kenya really goes with parties, I think the task force that has to come behind Babu and Ndindi Nyoro should be a focused one, so that they don't ruin their line of thought. So let's get to see some of the discussion right here. Of course, they might be a little bit interfered. Let's check here.
Sizing you, best performing MPs, both of you amongst the best, and yet people are saying, where is this man getting the money for his NGCDF? I know he was chairman of budget, he knows where the money is, maybe he's been able to divert some. Break it down for us without being too technical. How do we do it and where do we get the money? Jeff, there is no enough money anywhere, but there is also no small money. It deals with what you do with it. When I was elected in my first term, we decided that if we continue doing that, we'll do nothing in terms of what is visible, given the expansiveness of Kiharu. So, what did we do? We took all the data of Kiharu infrastructure that is needed, and we decided we are going to be data-driven. Number two, we standardized. What do I mean? I'm just talking fast to break down. If you go to any classroom in Kiharu, it is almost identical. The door, the window, whatever we do is more or less a cut and paste, cut and paste. Yes, standardization is very important.
That's true. If you build a model that's both repeatable and profitable in terms of public reception and usage, then you've hit the jack. DP and CDP. Treat the person as the primary unit. He's the explainer from Nyoro.
Kenya has 50 million people. South Korea has 50 million people. South Korea has wealth per person, GDP per capita of around 36,000. Kenya, 3,000. Yeah, 12 times. Yes, that tells you one thing. For any economy to grow, deal with a person as the unit of the economy. Because what we end up calling the economy up here is the amalgamation of me as an economic agent, then the household as the economic agent, the farm, you sum that, it becomes the economy. So productivity per person is very important. Now, what education does is to add value to human capital. I hope you get that. Mm-hmm. You see the way you pick.
All right, guys. So, of course, Ndindi Nyoro understands that education is very critical. It gives somebody a different mindset. And, of course, if it is highlighted the way we see a lot of people in the Mount Kenya, unlike other areas where we say the master's degree is not necessary, maybe PhD is not necessary, Actually, Central Kenya, a lot of people have gone for those degrees and they understand what it means to go through that. And it's not about maybe something to do with the very fast, whatever. And out of that, many of them have network, they have connections out there, they run businesses, they are the ones who are importing stuff from Dubai and all over the places. It's not about just getting education and being stuck in jobs. Actually, you relate with the people from the mountain, however much people talk about it, you realize a different mindset, and they are actually ready to go into risk areas and do whatever, but they don't have time to waste, like being stuck in a job and, getting an environment that is toxic and yet they are stuck there. They don't know do that. I've seen people who have easily walked out of job and gone on. The Mount Kenya director actually walked out from TSC, and later now you can see how far Mount Kenya University has gone. It has spread all over the places, including Rwanda and many other places. And how I wish this mindset would actually be channeled to other areas and make people understand. Now, another thing that the Mount Kenya people do, they network, as in they get to invest together, even a family. When you meet them, actually, they meet over the holidays, including April, August, December. Because of the small academic enhancement they have had, they have changed their mindset and they understand that they have to pull resources together to get somewhere. And of course, they have a different kind of pool that makes them do this until they begin to invest and own. Look at Nairobi, for example. There are these Kariobangi areas. I've been shown a lot of houses that belong to some young or even older ladies, and you wouldn't actually believe such families own that. So I think it's out of some different energy that is explored in the mountain. And if Ndindi Nyoro is trying to explore that, we didn't say that all the mountain people are like that, but just from him, if the rest of our politicians would actually learn from that and go listen to that interview without blocking their minds and acting in a selfish interest where they would say, where does he get the money? You know, that simple question people say, where does he get the money? Ndindi Nyoro has invested a lot. Pipeline, he has a lot of shares among so many other organizations. And you don't just invest by sitting, you invest by actually pulling resources with people networking and getting the right groups that really want to move. How much money do you waste a day? If you check a month, for example, most people run around with the merry-go-rounds, and maybe you put 3,000 per month. If you really consider putting that together, 10 of you or 20, how far do you go? So it's about something that is doable, only that now the mindset of the people is different now. Our president has run around telling us about Singapore. You can't force a baby to just be born today and run tomorrow. You have to go through steps. Now, ours is not a step. It is a kind of thing that we are being pulled from just being born to running, and we are being told Singapore is here for us. Are we so sure about it? If currently our economy is being counted in terms of amalgamation, and they're talking about stocks, something that most people don't have even knowledge about, and there are very few people who are investing in it, and of course there are the haves. The have-nots have no idea about stocks, and they don't even know what it means. You talk about dollars. Dollars is only conducted by people who engage in virtual businesses, social media, and what have you. The rest of our parents, do they know what a dollar is? Do they even handle it? They don't. But our president goes on to talk about dollars, the shares have moved to this, the money market, something that many Kenyans don't relate with it. But if we are talking in terms of the food, the common fruits, at the basis, then we would be actually talking facts. And of course, Ndindi Nyoro talked about it, that if we talk about economy, let's count in terms of people and not amalgamation. Now, the last thing I would actually think about is BABU OWINO insisted on something here. The power to use what you have, the little that you have. Of course, when you look at many counties, most of the leaders are just squandering the money, including CDF. Somebody is employed today after 2 terms, they are running around with a Porsche vehicle, they are building around. So it's about the selfish drive that most people get into it to profit and gain at an individual level. However, if they actually decided to use this CDF money, the county money, to enhance the counties, we would actually see every county growing. And Gachagua mentioned that thing, but unfortunately people go back to why he was impeached and now begin to blame and say that he's regionalizing. Unfortunately, people like Wamuchomba, who used to be with, have now been bought, because Moses Kuria, as it was said, he moved out from the government after he got a lot of money from the president and goes about buying the Mlima people. Of course, as a divide and rule aspect is always fair enough for a one-man show. And that has been able to buy some people like Wamchomba, and even the other Kyomburi, who was saved the other day by Gachagua. He stand out and he's speaking so ill of the opposition. We don't say that the opposition is actually perfect, but without an opposition and a country that has just the government, then we are done. So let's listen to Babu just little, and we call it a day. Tomorrow is another day. We'll focus on more political aspects. And actually, I welcome you to consider discussing these matters. It's so bad to always see things just coming down. We flopping, we failing because of lack of awareness of what is happening around us. Then we come around and blame politicians. What for? We are to blame because of our decisions and the failure to understand things that are happening around. So let's get to this, because when I discuss this, some people are like, why are you bothered with politics? Politics is not our duty. Let's keep quiet about it. We don't have to talk about it. Nothing will change. But something can change if you have the right information and inform another to inform another. So let's listen to Babu's argument, and we'll still have this discussion going on because the interview was a long one. And of course, we are expecting that Ndindi Nyoro and Babu should hold a task force alongside other people who are progressive.
Numbers, and numbers never lie. Numbers spoke, and that is why some of our party officials are so scared, because they've seen the numbers. Jeff, we were 33%, followed by my father, Dr. Oburu Odinga, at 10%, Gladys Wanga at 7%, and the rest at 1%, the likes of Badi and Wandais at 1, and Raymond Omolo 0 point something percent. Jeff, that tells you clearly. But leave the Luo kingpin aside. I want to be a national kingpin, a Kenyan kingpin. That is the most important thing, Jeff.
Okay, I agree with Babu. You don't have to be a kingpin for a region like Natembea, let's say Natembea, Trans Nzoia, Matiang'i, Kisii, and Kalonzo, Eastern, and wherever. Those divisions of region don't add anything. What matters is that let's see these leaders. For example, we look at Ndindi Nyoro, we say he's worth a state leader. We look at Babu, we say worth a state leader. Maybe we look at Sifuna, regardless of their parties. So we are supposed to look at, that's why the GNCs were actually arguing against the party and the tribe. All right? And people never understood that, that metaphor at all. Up to now, people still go about and talk about united opposition is always clean, or the broad-based government, or ODM. That I don't see the sense in this, because when you look at ODM, we have elements like Junet. You look at our own Oburu Odinga. You look at people like Gladys Wanga, totally confused, but they are in ODM. And again, in the same party, you have people like Sifuna, who are a bit sober. Even if they have some faults, we wouldn't see a lot of that. And we have like Osoro and others. You look at the united opposition, we have those people who are not so, and we have those who are. You look at maybe even current government, we have those few elements sober, while the rest are not sober. So I think up to this level, we look at individuals as they are. It's not about just making a party go through or a party fail. And that is where many voters, I believe, we have been making a lot of injustice. We have been unjustified or injustified to ourselves for the longest time possible. And it's time people should wake up. So we've taken about 25 minutes in this discussion, though I rushed through because I knew by 4 I should be on my way to other duties. But anyway, this is a discussion that will not end today or tomorrow, and how I actually would encourage people to form a lot of amorphous groups just to check on politicians, because we no longer have the opposition, but we can have civil society with a lot of people who are informed and questioning what the politicians do and where they should be. Adios.